Introduction to Literature Critical Analysis Presentation. C.S. Lewis once said that literature adds to reality. It does not simply describe it. It enriches the necessary competencies that daily life requires and provides, and in this respect, it irrigates the deserts that our lives have already become. In this PowerPoint, I will explain how Plato's Allegory of the Cave and Virginia Woolf's The New Dress irrigated the reader's lives through each story's plot, as well as how each story added and enriched reality through the characters. Virginia Woolf was considered a British author in the modern period, while Plato was considered a Greek author in the classical period. Throughout the story The New Dress by Virginia Woolf, a character named Maybelle Waring began to feel self-conscious about a yellow patterned dress she wore to a gathering at Clarissa Dalloway's house. Throughout the story, Maybelle was convinced that a majority of the individuals at the party were ridiculing her outfit. However, towards the end, Maybelle began to gain self-confidence. In Plato's Allegory of the Cave, two individuals by the names of Socrates and Glaucon conversed about an individual who escaped a cave. While trapped inside the cave, in complete darkness, the only objects the individual knew were the ones painted on the wall by a fire. In doing so, the character had limited knowledge of the outside world. Thus, the cave expressed how individuals in society can live in their own ignorance. When discussing the two texts, these texts shared some similarities and some differences. Throughout each story's plot, both texts shared a series of actions that led to the characters embracing change. In the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, the change can be deliberated as a symbol of ignorance. When the character was shackled in the cave, he was uninformed about the world around him. Since he has never walked out into the outside world, the character has no familiarity with what the objects around him are. However, once the character detached himself from the chains, the character began to gain a perspective of reality. For instance, compelled suddenly to stand up and turn his neck round and walk and look towards the light. Thus, this displayed the character deciding to break away from a life of limitation and stagnation to strive for a life full of knowledge, which embodies change. In The New Dress by Virginia Woolf, Maybelle was very insecure and depended on the opinions of others to feel self-confident. Not only did she struggle with her self-image, however, she also began to criticize her own self. For example, it was her odious, weak, vacillating character again. Towards the end of the text, however, Maybelle began to feel self-confident and positive about her image, signifying a change in her own attitude. In doing so, both texts irrigated the lives of the readers by illustrating how welcoming change into a stationary life can have many beneficial impacts, such as becoming less oblivious or leading a life full of confidence. Even though both texts irrigated the lives of the readers by presenting change, the changes shown in each story were considered different. During the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, it dealt with individuals who were unaware of the outside world. The text illuminated that when individuals step outside of their own cave, people would begin to grasp the truth. In doing so, the story communicates that by staying inside of one's own cave, the individual is being ignorant to the truth. However, in The New Dress by Virginia Woolf, the mode of change being displayed is in terms of confidence. At first, Maybelle was very insecure about her self-image. However, once she broke free of these negative thoughts, she began to feel positive and confident. For instance, she waves her hand to Charles and Rose to show them she did not depend on them one scrap. Moreover, the change exhibited in the Allegory of the Cave can be considered being more informed, while the change in The New Dress was for acquiring self-assurance. Another similarity both texts shared was that they both added and enriched reality by the characters involved in the stories. In both texts, characters in each story helps the main character see reality in multiple ways. For instance, in the allegory of the cave, the sun illuminated the realities of the world by allowing the cave person to view items in a different light, such as the sun in the reflection of himself. Without the sun, the character that escaped his cave of limitations would not have recognized the invisible truths lying underneath the apparent surface. Similarly, the characters in The New Dress by Virginia Woolf also played an important role in enriching Mabel's reality. At the party, a male guest and Rose Shaw criticized Mabel's outfit. For instance, "But my dear, it's perfectly charming," Rose Shaw said, looking her up and down. In doing so, Mabel began to feel the deprecation from Rose. Not only did Rose Shaw add to Mabel's reality, however, the mirror also played an essential role. Every time Mabel glanced at a glass that displayed her reflection, Mabel saw the negative side of her appearance. In doing so, the characters and mirror eventually pushed Mabel into realizing how low of confidence she had. Thus, the stories added to reality by the sun highlighting objects of the world that the world contained, and in Virginia Woolf's story, the characters, along with the mirror, helped her start the transformation of confidence. Conversely, even though other characters involved in the stories helped enrich the main individuals' lives by displaying reality in multiple ways, the two main characters' new outlook on life were dissimilar. In Plato's The Allegory of the Cave, the main individual who escaped began to recognize the need of being aware. By being mindful, the character would have realized how severely unaware he was of the objects in the world, such as the sun and reflections. By the character now understanding the need to remain outside of one's own restrictions, his life can now lead with familiarity. In Virginia Woolf's The New Dress, Mabel recognized the need for positivity. When Mabel felt belittled about her dress, she began to have low self-esteem. However, she began to change her level of confidence, which helped her radiate positivity. In doing so, the two narratives are different since the character in The Allegory of the Cave began to fathom the importance of awareness, whereas Mabel began to see the prominence of positivity.